Oh, I've got it, Nymph. Awesome. Okay. So with that, I would like to introduce our guest, Warren Yu, who is joining us from Monterey, California. And Warren and I met, I guess it's been months now, right, Warren?
Yep.
We've been talking about doing this jam for quite a while, and I'm super excited. I was introduced to Warren through a mutual connection, and his background is just fantastic. He comes from a background in the U.S. Military. He can tell you all about that. And he's going to talk to us about this thing called polarity management, which has been fascinating. Months now, right, so, Warren? There we go. And we've been talking about. Okay, over to you, Warren. Sorry about that.
No worries. That's all right. Okay, I'm just going to get the slides up and we'll start. Welcome, everyone. These slides have been pre-recorded so we can start collaborating sooner. Today, I want to share with you a management framework that can help any organization deal with change, conflict, complexity, or chronic issues, corporate culture, or strategic management. It focuses on polarities like work and home, compliance and choice, or competition and collaboration, or preserving tradition while stimulating progress. Today, we'll use the polarity of stability and change to help our car company. This 2-day class has been distilled down to 11 minutes so we can practice in a manner that'll help with your learning, consulting, facilitation, or leadership work. So who am I and what am I about? My name is Warren Yu. I live in Monterey, California with my wife of 28 years and our 3 daughters, ages 24, 17, and 21. I'm about global peace and stability. To get to global peace and stability, we need both justice and governance. To get to justice and governance, we need 3 things: trade, security, and diplomacy. I work in America's Security Department, where I've been for the past 37 years with the U.S. Navy and more recently with the Institute for Security Governance. We'll start with 4 assertions. Assertion number 1, innovation. Invention just creates things, but innovation changes habits. Innovation is about adopting new practices. Awesome leadership teams, organizations, and businesses reflect the same 4 elements that an innovation does because their culture, products, or services are compelling, relevant, sustainable, and lead to a competitive advantage. How might we best do that? Assertion number 2, polarities. Our most fundamental polarity is breathing. We must breathe in and we must breathe out. Without both, the entire system collapses and we'll die. Like all polarities in life, we endeavor to find the best balance of both. How might we best do that? Assertion number 3, balance. Balance is best represented by the 3,500-year-old Chinese philosophy of yin-yang, which translates to dark and bright. It's based on dualism, which describes how opposite or contrary forces may actually complement and interconnect with each other, creating a system of interdependent pairs that continually bolster the other. We can break down the yin-yang symbol into 4 parts. The still point in the middle always remains centered. It represents the calm in the midst of the storm. The outer circle represents purpose and equilibrium. The dots represent the lack of absolutes, that each contains the seed of the other. And finally, the entire icon rotates endlessly in eternal, self-sustaining balance. Yin-yang is the basis for the infinity symbol. It can be divided into two parts known as poles. These poles form an interdependent pair of opposites crucial to a system. That system is called a polarity. Managing those polarities to our advantage is called polarity management. Like yin-yang, polarities represent a perpetual, self-balancing energy system that is centered literally around the concept of yes and. Its interdependency is unavoidable, unstoppable, and serves as a sustainable framework to achieve your goals. Each pole brings something positive to the pair and becomes a liability without its interdependent opposite pole. Assertion number 4, energy. New ideas need energy. Just to make your new idea compelling and relevant, which is already a high bar, it's super hard to make it quick and sustainable. So what do? Oh, I know. Let's make a really nice PowerPoint slide deck. No, it doesn't work because as great as your ideas may be, they rarely pack enough inherent energy for launch and sustainment. We already have an existing framework that comes packed with energy built into nature. They're called polarities. Polarities are, in fact, infinite energy systems like waves in the ocean. As the energy wraps around each pole, it simultaneously attracts and repels those poles, making them an interdependent, self-sustaining pair. Problems can be solved, but when polarities are correctly managed, their yes-and approach helps you achieve your goals faster and sustain them longer, which is why a polarities duality is captured with the quote, "There's wisdom in the resistance." In fact, healthy polarities maximize their good parts and minimize their bad parts and are actually warped upwards like this. Okay, that's it for theory. Here's the scenario. We've all been hired as consultants to resuscitate a 100-year-old car company. Half the employees want to keep doing things the same old way because that's what makes them comfortable and it's a known path forward. The other half wants change to attract new talent and new ideas to transcend our company beyond transportation, especially against the backdrop of global climate change and working from home now and during the next pandemic, and the impending refugee crisis brought on by the war in the Ukraine. We're going to accelerate this car company in 10 steps based on the polarity of stability and change. I'll walk you through the first 6 of the 10 steps of filling out a polarity map. Step number 1. We'll start by declaring at the top in green our greater purpose statement, which is to skyrocket to be a compelling, relevant, and sustainable car company. Step number 2. We'll declare what we want to avoid at the bottom in red, which is complete failure from the collapse of a feeble, tangential, or inept car company. Step number 3. We'll list above the left-hand pole the positive, universal benefits of stability like maintaining continuity, honoring core values, and tapping past and present wisdom. Step number 4. When we focus too much on stability to the exclusion of change, and yes, I need you to say it like that, we experience stability's negative consequences like precipitating stagnation, atrophying investments, or squandering our energy and direction. Step number 5. To fix this, we need to swing the energy up to the right by focusing on the opposite pole of change. Above this right-hand pole, we'll list the universal benefits of change that can fix the negative consequences of too much stability, like sparking creativity or pioneering new opportunities or reviving vitality and correcting our course. Step number 6. When we focus too much on change to the exclusion of stability, we experience the negative consequences of change like inciting disruption, forfeiting our values, and taking foolish risk. These first 6 steps are now complete and frame the challenge. It's also important to discuss what happens in the middle. As we swing the negative consequences of the left pole up to the right, we're fixing the problem. When we swing the negative consequences of the right pole up to the left, we're fixing the fix. This unending correction and its resulting correction to the correction enable polarities to process quickly and persist infinitely, which is why they initiate change faster and sustain change longer. Okay, time for action. Think about our 3 images. We're in a position to help these people, but we first need to turn this company around, helping all the workers and the management resolve their long-standing disagreements over stability and change. Teams 1 and 2 will brainstorm action steps to promote their pole. Teams 3 and 4 will brainstorm early warning triggers to prevent the company from over-focusing on their pole. The Zoom room number you'll randomly be placed in will double as your team number. Click on the link we've provided in Zoom chat to head to Mural. You'll have 12 minutes to work in your teams, and then we'll collectively shepherd everyone around to highlight your work and answer your questions. Okay, so now we'll end this segment, bring you back to the main room for a quick check-in, and then we'll begin the live collaboration. See you soon. Okay, so like the video said, in the chat, I just put a link. You can click on the first one. There's links to the mural board. And then later on, if you want the slides and contact information, you can click that later. But we'll head over to the mural whiteboard. And Mark, how many teams do you want to have today with the people we have?
Yeah, I think we're going to go with 6 teams. And if I can, just real quickly, it's a lot to take in. I've been talking with Warren about this for several days now. And like everything we do in Wednesday Web Jam, we're just going to dive into it and experiment with it. What I love about this is a lot like other tools and frameworks that we use as some of us as practitioners, facilitators, and in the innovation world. And this is kind of a tool that you can use for a team that's collaborating together, as we're going to do for this car company, to identify these polarities and talk through them. And then Warren, if I understood correctly, this is a kind of thing where you end up with an artifact or a series of artifacts around these polarities that exist inside of this sort of system of people. And you, after you've developed this in a day-long workshop, for example, you told me you actually put this up on the wall. You make a poster out of it so that everybody can see this stuff. I just wondered if you wanted to kind of add any color commentary about that.
Very good point, Mark. And if we do this correctly, this actually ends up becoming a public contract, so we can hold each other and ourselves accountable.
Right. So we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes if anybody has any big questions they want to ask before we jump into the activity.
The instructions are printed on the page. So if you're, I know it can be a lot. So if you're confused, when you get to your team, you're just going to follow it across. It's pretty straightforward. And don't worry, there's no wrong answers. And then after the 12 minutes, we're going to summon everybody. I'll pull you all together and we'll just go team to team and just talk about what you guys did and, highlight your work and maybe, offer some suggestions. And that'll help you hopefully quickly learn it.
Hey, Warren, it's Brenda, the Luddite. How am I finding my team again? You know me.
So what we're going to do is we're going to put you into teams, and then
You're
randomly on Zoom.
Now, I thought it was an indication somewhere to know. Okay.
And then when you get there, what you can do is you can move around. You just click and drag the screen, and if you look in the lower right-hand corner, you can change the mode. And if you hold down the Option key on your Mac, you can zoom as you scroll. with your finger. You can zoom in and out.
So I'm just picking an icon at the bottom?
Here's what we'll do, Brenda. In just a second, I'm going to send everybody into breakout rooms, and you go into smaller little meetings in Zoom. And then Warren and I will be moving from
rotating
around rooms to facilitate and help answer questions. When you do click into the mural, you'll see that in the right-hand column, there's a team number, and and you should click on the team number that corresponds to the room that you're going to be in. So there'll be room 1 through, I think, 6, and you'll click into team room through 1 through 6. Okay, that makes any sense? Yep. Is everybody ready to go? We're just going to dive in. Does that sound good? And then we'll play and learn, and then we'll come back. Okay.
All
ready,
right.
Warren?
Yep.
I'm opening all the rooms, hitting the hyperspace button. We'll see you guys on the other side.
All right.
Cool. All right. So Warren, as everybody's moving over, I think you and Mimp and I as co-host and Colin and a few other folks that joined later, I will put you in rooms. Warren, you're free to walk around in Zoom.
Okay.
And you can take off.
Okay.
Mimp, you can go wherever you want. Colin and Patrick and Bjorn and Biliana, I will get you in a room.
Who's going to be in plenary?
Oh, good point. I forgot all about that.
Colin, do you want to be in plenary?
Yeah. Do you guys want to play in plenary? That's a great idea. and then Warren, I've got it, because we need somebody in plenary for the YouTube. I totally forgot about that.
Okay.
I'll keep these folks here, and I will bounce into the other rooms as well as we planned earlier. But I'll start with these guys, and Mimp, you and Colin can play around. You guys can go into Team 7.
Team 7.
And I'll help you with that. So if you'll click on the mural in Team 7, you should go to a blue space, which talks about how to best avoid over-focusing on stability.
Shall I screen share?
I'll do that.
Okay.
You do that. No, you do that.
Yeah, because I'm going to be
You
here.
go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Do you need the links or anything, Colin?
I'm there. I'm in.
Perfect.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll make it bigger.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Yeah, good idea. So here's what you guys need to do. You're a car company, and so the left-hand side of the polarity framework is about stability. The right-hand side is about change. That's the polarity. Stability against change. Okay. The top is about how you maintain stability in this case. And the bottom is about how you make sure you don't over-focus on stability. So what we want to do is we want to identify just a couple of Post-it notes, 3 or 4 or 5 sticky notes that would be things that would help to make sure that the organization is not over-focusing on stability. So there's an example here. If more than 1% of a department's talent quits or joins a competitor quarterly, the department head briefs the senior leadership team within 72 hours as to why those people have quit and how to fix it. So the element there that you're looking for is, in this case, I think the stability item was making sure that people don't quit. And so making sure you're not over focusing on that this is an example of that. So in our case, for the car company, you might have people in the car company that are saying safety is something that we really need to focus on because that's a stability thing, right? So how do we make sure that they're not over focusing on safety? So we want to brainstorm, 3 to 5 elements like safety that would be related to stability, and then ways to make sure that you're not over focusing on those. And if you can, make those things smart, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Any questions?
It's a lot, but I
It is a
will
lot.
try my best.
I think Mark would, can you just remind us of the spectrum and where just the X and Y axis there? Stability is on the, maybe we should.
Stability is on the left.
Yeah,
And change is on the right.
cool. Okay.
And the top are the action steps for stability, and the bottom are the early warning triggers for stability. So one is like, what do you do to make things stable? And the bottom then is, what do you do to make sure that things don't over focus on making things stable?
Cool.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to jump into one of the other breakout rooms so I can help out. Okay.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Just
So,
like sorry.
action step for stability.
Can see better. Bjorn, are you with us?
Who's there? Regular team conversations.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm filling this out correctly, Mim,
Um,
but
it's
going
okay.
with
We'll fail
Okay.
forward together because I'm not sure either. I'll just make more post-it notes for you.
Okay, let's see. Regular team conversations.
I guess like trying to think.
Yeah, it's just kind of like this freedom and form.
Can I type that down? Just for
Uh,
the
trust.
visualization?
Like a trust in people you work with, or over trusting maybe.
Over trusting. Oh, someone's typing lack of trust. I have a feeling that's Bjorn.
Visiting record. Yeah, what
How should I put over trusting?
you can organize it. So
Otherwise,
actually, stability. I think we look at things that are on the opposite, that make things unstable. Where's their creative abrasion?
Oh, identify creative abrasion. Is that you?
Yeah. I don't know. Whoever's moving it around can kind of.
Hi, Warren. We're just playing around with your exercise. I think you're on mute.
Yes. Good to see you guys. I'm just bouncing around to the different rooms.
Yay.
Yeah. So I think we're getting it, Warren.
Slowly getting there. Yeah. Safety is one that I like.
Absolutely.
Like a psychological safe space is also another one. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm gonna write a play space as well.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
Experimental space, play space.
Yeah, there's this balance, balance of enabling stability and structure and some kind of guidance, but not over trying to enable that, and it sort of smothers the creative juices.
True. I wish this board is bigger now. To zoom out and look on what other teams are doing.
It's obviously definitely very context related. What did I do there? It's very context related as well. Interesting to sort of plot them in this space, actually. Change stability and change. Hmm.
Failing is one. I think it adds into the experimental play space.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that with the play space. Mm.
All of these are generating, you know, each post-it note is generating a whole conversation on its own. So that's stability change. Stability can be safe. It's kind of in the side of the box, but possibly stifling, kind of sticky. And change is more playful. It can be more risky. It's sometimes exactly.
I'm gonna put down that as well, risky. Oh,
It's this is where being not willing to fail or understanding how to strategically fail, and so there's a lack of that allowance to experiment and to explore and learn that way, which is, I think, a bit of trying to make things overstable.
One size fits all approach.
Mm.
I don't know if that echoes what you're trying to say, because it's like, because everyone has very different learning approaches or working approaches on certain things, so we cannot possibly do a one size fits all kind of a environment.
I've just reread the instruction at the top here, and I'm not sure if if there was something a bit more specific. I think it's all good.
I think it's a car company. Lauren, are we doing this right?
Are you doing this what?
Are we doing this right?
Doing it right.
Yeah. There's no. We'll go around afterwards. It's a lot. It's a 2-day class in 10 minutes, so it's a lot. But no, that's great. There's no wrong answers. Basically, you know, as consultants, just pretend, you know, we're helping out this 100-year-old car company, and your focus in this area is avoid over focusing on stability. So you could imagine in a 100-year-old car company, there's people that have been there for, you know, decades, and they're going to want to say, hey, we've built our success on a certain way of doing things. We don't want to change. And so how do you know when you need to change? That's why you guys are so crucial, because you're going to set up triggers that are going to say, how do we know we're over focusing on stability, right? You know, and that's this example here. You know, when a certain amount of a percentage of talent starts leaving, they're like, you know what? I don't want to work here anymore. You guys are stuck in the past. Maybe you have other examples. All right, I'm going to bounce to another room. Yeah, people, it's already 9:35, so probably a couple more minutes. They're still coming around. And I see, yeah, and Mark's there helping people out. So I'm going to head back to room 6.
Okay. Warren, you good?
Yep. I'm good. You want to, you know, people obviously had to get started and stuff. Do you want to keep it open for a little while longer? Or are you ready to bring it back in a couple of minutes?
I sent a message that we had 3 minutes about a minute ago. So we got about 2 more minutes. Per our agenda, we should be back about 38 past the hour.
Okay, great.
It's going good. I think the teams are really leaning into it. So
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of productivity. So yeah, I'll get my Zoom ready to, or not Zoom. I'll get my Chrome ready to share.
And you may want to kind of scan the one so you can kind of see how you're going to walk us through this. Pull it all together. Yeah. Cool.
Mark, anything you want to add on our board?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to jump down there and have a look.
Yeah, in each post-it begets another post-it.
Right. How to avoid over focusing on stability.
Mm.
Yeah, one size fits all approach. I like that.
I had that talk with Arna yesterday about one size fits all.
I'm sorry.
I had a talk with Arna about one size fits all yesterday, and
All right.
interesting. I can expand more in the backstage. Yes.
Okay. No, looks good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close. I think they will have either 30, 60 seconds to come back. 30 seconds. So
Is it okay if I look at other rooms?
sure.
Absolutely.
We're
Okay.
bringing everybody back to the
Ooh,
room
Okay.
here shortly.
ooh, just looking. Oh darn, Colin, we forgot to put our names and our location.
That's okay. That's my fault. I should have had you guys in, but you know each other already, so that and you
Yeah.
know where you're from. So
Cool.
Cool.
Colin, it's always interesting to see you in South Africa. You're always dressed the opposite because you know
Yeah.
it's cold here and it's clearly it's warm there and
Here it's warm and dark.
warm and dark here. It's cold and light. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
polarity.
Okay. So everybody's back. I'm going to share my screen. Is that correct?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. So let me get into Chrome here. Okay, great job, everybody. We were all the facilitators were looking at your work. It's great to see you guys jumped into it. So good job. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to look at your work. I'll share the screen so you guys will look over my shoulder. And I'm also going to use a feature in Mural called Summon. And I'm going to pull all of you toward me so you're going to see the same screen. And that way we can just stay together as a class, okay? So let's start here. So there we go. And then summon. Okay.
You want us to stay in Miro? Or?
Yeah. So why don't you, go look at, well, you can look at Zoom because hopefully you're seeing the screen right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can just look at the Zoom screen. Warren's going to walk us through. Yeah.
So, how might we best support stability? So we're with team number 1. You guys did great. Look at this, all this work here. I love what I'm seeing here. Some great ideas, encourage people to see faults in everything, sharing successes and challenges. That's great. So one thing, when we're doing polarities, and it's a detail for today, but we want to really try and focus on measurable commitments. And by that, I mean, because this is going to basically end up being a contract, we need to hold ourselves and each other accountable, and we need a specific number, right? So for instance, like in the example up above there, form an honorary seniority decades club to honor people who've been at the car company for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, buy them lunch, ask them questions. That's nice, but that's not sufficient. It's that second line that's necessary. Departments with the highest number of employees attending gets a collective annual bonus. And the point is that you want to be measuring stuff and you can know right away, gosh, if one department's doing really well and its employees are, contributing, that's meaningful. Okay, so let's go over to team 2. Here we go. Here's team 2. How might we best support? I'm sorry. We're going to go to team 3. So we're at team 1 and they're focused on promoting stability. This is team 2. This is team 3 and this is beneath stability. And this is how might we best avoid over focusing on stability. So when everybody in team 1 is doing such a great job, what triggers do we have when we to know that we're over focusing on stability? And so that's what these folks did here. Love it. Love all the different colored stickies here. Same idea here. I love your ideas here. Look outside the company and study new trends, brain drain for newer employees who start leaving. Absolutely. And the one thing to contribute to that is, like I said, for that first team, if you can just look for or think about a number that the company could use. So that way it's something very specific. And that way you'll know if they've tripped the tripwire. Okay. And the one thing we were going to go over for all these teams, steps 4 and 5, which we didn't have you bother with because it would just take more time. is you want to be conscious of who's going to be responsible for collecting that number and, publishing it, et cetera. And step 5, when will they do it? And again, when all this is printed out on the poster, and literally we've had companies, put this in the front hallway or on their intranet, it's holding everybody accountable, right? So at the end of, December 31st or the end of the quarter, whatever your metric is, you can all look and say, all right, we agreed, when more than 1% of the department's talent is quitting, using this example here, and they're going to a competitor, at the end of the quarter, we were supposed to talk about this. And if it's more than 1%, like, we've got a problem. And it automatically, in this case, will trigger a senior leadership team like, okay, everybody in the paint department's leaving. What's going on in the paint department? And that way, you're over-focusing on stability because they're frustrated with things being the same. They might say, gosh, people are really bored of black in the paint department. Can't we use red or something else? So when you have too much stability to the exclusion of change, what do? You go to change. So now we're going to go up to team 2. How might we best support change? So let me zoom in here. Oh, look, love all the multicolored stickies here. Great ideas. Start again in a garage. Identify innovators in the company. Awesome. And same idea to further flesh these out. Specific numbers would help. So for instance, identifying innovators in the company, great idea. What you could do is, for instance, because it's just like an open-ended thing, to have a number there, you could say, you could measure what percentage of each department has that they've identified innovators, right? So you might find out, like, the tire department, however you're going to measure who's an innovator or has new ideas, the tire department, gosh, 10% have self-identified as innovators, and that's highest in the company. So number 1, you want to honor that. Number 2, you want to measure that over time, and you can see how things fluctuate, which will give you insight into how the leadership's happening and how their productivity is. And you'll also be able to answer the issues that are going on with the negative consequences of over focusing on stability, because you guys here are focused on change. So what happens when we focus too much on change to the exclusion of stability? That's where we head to team 4. And what happens is that you over focus on change. And so here we are. Great job. Oh, love, you got pictures in there. Awesome. When you over focus on change, so here's some of their ideas: improving the existing good solutions, appreciate what we have. And so what's happening is that there's been so much change that there's problems, or you're yearning to go back to, gosh, we need a little bit of stability, and we're tripping over ourselves. Or for instance, in this example here, the number of safety accidents has gone above a certain point. So that's good there. So I'm going to end with those so we can have more time for Q&A. I'm going to, let's see, what time is it now? It's 45. So I'm going to actually stop this screen share, and I'm going to make myself available. I'm just looking at the time. It's 9:45. So again, you guys did great. It's a 2-day class in 10 minutes. So you did a lot in a short amount of time. And so what happens is that when you fill out, you ideally have stakeholders participate in this quite large group intervention, a summit, and you flesh out. You can just pick one polarity. There's many, as we demonstrated in the beginning of the slides. And so you can determine what's most appropriate for the situation. So in this case, with the car company, we thought stability and change. And when you set up the action steps and early warning triggers, it helps you keep in balance, right? And the folks on the bottom, the early warning triggers, have their triggers set. So when there's too much focus on that pole, they're the ones who are going to say, you know what, we need to start focusing on the other pole because we focus too much, in this case, on stability or change. All right, with that, let me stop talking. I'll open it up to any questions. Phil, go ahead.
So
Phil,
I got yep, I had to unmute myself. So I got the ideation, right? The brainstorming component of this. It seems like going from step 3 to step 4, there wasn't a part where we kind of force ranked these or assigned value to them. I feel like I missed that step. Tell me how you do that.
So great question. So ideally, and you guys are only seeing a quarter, a small quadrant of what is involved. So actually the descriptions I was putting in the general areas, I intentionally put them, they're actually parallels. So those 3 descriptions, inciting disruptions, things like that, actually are answering the previous quadrant's issues, right? When you have too much change or too much stability, or you're trying to promote stability or promote change. And so ideally, when you do this in a large group, you're actually walking through with common threads all the way through. And then that way you're basically building this, mechanized process, and everyone agrees on, okay, here's what we're going to do to promote this. And here's what we're going to do when we agree that, it's too much in this one area. So unfortunately, you guys only see a small part because we're really trying to jam a lot in a short amount of time. Great question. All right, who else?
I don't have necessarily a question, but a comment, and I put it in the chat too. But I can see now, at the beginning with the video, when we're going through each parts of the steps of polarity, how the template that we just used on Mural, each one of the teams was a different one of those spots on there. So that was crafty what you just did there. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, so that was the comment. Okay, thank you. Good to see you again. All right, who else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Warren, interesting model. But how do you avoid people making the wrong choices when it comes to how to measure things? Because that's something I see a lot in organizations.
Yes. Great question. Great question. So couple things. Number one, that's why you have to do it with everybody, or at least all the poles represented, right? So for instance, if you're on the stability team, you're all about stability. You certainly want the change people there because you're pre-negotiating, if you will, this contract. And so part of that is to negotiate or make sure it's clear, how are we collecting the data, right? So we can agree on what we're collecting and how we're collecting it. Now, in this case, because we have a car company, it's an engineering company, so you're going to get very specific numbers. So let's say, for instance, in the paint department, I don't know, I'm just making this up, we should have no more than 3 bad paint jobs per month. And it's very clear what that is and whatever the metrics are, let's say. And so when the number of paint jobs that fail rises above 3, what's that going to trigger, right? And likewise, to promote the paint department, lowering that number, sure, you can incentivize them and all that. You want to have specific measures so that they know they're doing well. When we get it, I don't know, below 1, like it's a historic high or something. So very good question. You have to agree on what metrics and how you collect them, because you can't have everybody deciding their own metrics. Yep. And it's easier in engineering companies or companies that already have metrics, built into their processes that use numbers. But those are crucial, because what's going to happen is, this is going to essentially be a public contract, a way forward. So down the road, right, let's say you and I are on opposite poles. I'm, stability, you're change. I'm going to hold you accountable, saying, hey, you know what, we agreed on this and we should be shifting to the other pole, or vice versa. So great question. Measurements are key. All right, what else? More questions? Yeah, Kristen.
So
Dana, sorry, Dana's raised her hand first.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
had my hand raised on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so-
Go ahead, Dana.
Sure. So I do understand where you're saying you want something measurable, and with an engineering
Yep.
company, you're going to have more of that opportunity. What if the change needs to be cultural? I mean, you understand, and I find that, yes. So I'll leave that question there. You can answer it.
That's a very good question, and that's exactly where this is heading, right? Because it oftentimes, again, to use an example of for an engineering company or a car company, especially with engineers, right? They always think it's about technology or yes, the numbers are crucial and you're measuring things. Sure. It honestly, when it really comes down to it, especially from a leadership perspective, it has nothing to do with technology and it has everything to do with culture. And that's where this is also powerful for leadership, for management, because sure, you're measuring things and you're going to follow this around. You're going to make better cars. Your quality is going to improve. Your sales will improve because, you're selling cars that aren't just black or whatever. You're also having insight, like what's going on with the paint department. They're doing great. Well, it's because Susan is in charge of the paint department and she's awesome. Oh, for strategic management, remember those 6 ideas in the very first slide? Strategic management, guess what? Susan's going to be the next CEO because we're planning our succession plans. She's doing awesome in the paint department. We're going to, elevate her to the engine department. Suzanne, go ahead.
You're muted.
Yeah, I saw another Suzanne with her hand risen, so I didn't know if it's me. The question I had was, I noticed that we often find ourselves working from what we already know and what exists, while change is something we cannot hardly really imagine. So if we come up with rules or benchmarks or a way to measure, we also base that on the old system that we know. And it might not be sufficient, it might not help us. I mean, going from reading newspapers on paper to digital, you suddenly have very different success metric. So how does the model help with that?
Great question. So, and very good point, right? So especially, let's go back to the engineering example. You're measuring some specific number in engineering, and you're right. If you're going to try a new process, that measurement isn't sufficient. Oftentimes, actually, to get to what Dana was smartly identifying as a culture issue, that's why figuring out what to measure is hugely important. So, for instance, measuring the number of people who are leaving the engineering department, right? It has nothing to do with the metrics, whatever. We're going to make a new, we've got a new machine here to do something, whatever. That's almost beside the point. How are the people handling it? Do they feel that they're well led? Are they being properly, compensated? Are they feeling heard? Whether it's, in this case, people who want stability, hey, we need to be safe. We need to, keep on a steady track for our shareholders, whatever. Or people who want change, saying, you know what, no one's listening to me. We need to come up with new ideas. I heard electric motors are a big thing. We need to stop making gas engines. And so absolutely, you're right. Picking those right metrics are crucial. And oftentimes they have to do with secondary or tertiary issues. Like, it's not the engineering metric, it's the people in the engineering department. Are they leaving? Are they happy? Are they, what's happening there?
We have time for one more question. Susan, yes.
Okay, my question is, I found the exercise a little bit difficult because it's action planning only. And in the past, when I have used the tool, is more about understanding whether the symptoms of the overuse of a particular pole before action planning. Is that something you would do if you have more time, or yeah?
Yeah, so this is clearly, good point. We're in the very beginning of a planning stage. I'm trying to show everybody as much as I can of the process, and we're
Right.
just, biting the first bite. Ideally, when you have this done, it kind of becomes a public contract. And of course it can change down the road, and you don't want to change it very often because it's a big deal. But I don't know, once you review it once a year, let's say, or once every 3 years. And when you get a well-founded one, it sustains, right? It itself is going to sustain time, and people feel that they're being heard, that they've got a say in it, as well as leadership. They're making the company more profitable, or they're, doing better. So we're talking about action steps ultimately in some of these examples, but yes, the tool in general, the polarity map is for planning. And once you make it, then it's in a maintenance mode. You're keeping yourselves accountable. Great question.
Yeah, awesome. So Warren, thank you. This has been really amazing, and I'm so happy that everybody had a chance to hear from you. I think you do a fantastic job of kind of explaining and giving examples and your responses back. But I will say, I am the first to say that I'm still a little bit in the weeds on this. But I want to figure out how to use it, right? I want to grab some things from it. I just love the idea of acknowledging that there are polarities, if nothing else. But this gives us a structure to work through those things in an organizational way, in a team way, which I think is super fun. So anybody who has been here before knows that we have this thing called the backstage. But for those who haven't, we are going to go in just a few minutes at the top of the hour. We'll stop the YouTube streaming and come off of YouTube, and we will go to what's called the backstage, where we kind of get it. We're able to sit down for another half an hour and dig into the questions that we have for Warren on this subject.
I don't see your screen.
Yeah, there we go. Are we good? Yeah, I had it on.
You did your magic.
A blank screen. So, but before we do that, a couple of final announcements. Next month, we are going to have a Wednesday Web Jam book club. So we're going to be reading together the book Think Again by Adam Grant. And Steve, I think you want to say a word or two about this?
Yeah, this is a really great book, and I welcome anybody to read it before our thing next month. It's called Think Again. Adam Grant, he's a professor at University of Pennsylvania. It's really about challenging yourself to understand what you don't know, and how we have certain flawed ways of thinking and relying on kind of stale knowledge. There are a number of exercises. There's a number of activities that we're going to do to kind of test your ability to rethink what you think you know. And if you want to read the book and participate or contribute to the presentation, email me here. There's my email address, steve@designthinkersgroup.us. Zimena, who's I don't think here today, is going to be helping me. She's one of our web jammers from Mexico, but please shoot me an email if you'd like to participate in the presentation. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Just a few last little notes, and then we'll go to the backstage. The first is, if you'd like to submit an idea or the name of somebody you'd like to have as a guest for a future web jam, feel free to do that. MIMP has just pasted into the Zoom chat the link here, bit.ly link, WWJ ideas. And we also would invite you, if you'd like to join us at Wednesday Web Jam on our website. Just have a look at we have all of the past Web Jam YouTube videos stored there. You can also join us. We have a kind of I'd say a private WhatsApp community that we're developing for people to chat. And you're welcome to do that. That's also in the Zoom chat there, if you'd like to join us there. And then there's our team. This is the folks that all of the volunteers that work behind the stage to pull off these Wednesday web jams. A lot of moving parts that it takes to put one of these on. And finally, we'd like, if you are interested, if you appreciated today's session, you want to give us a cup of coffee, so to speak, $10, $3, $2, whatever it is, in your local currency. If you want to just make a quick donation, that goes to supporting the expenses that it takes to put this all on, which is our Zoom subscription, our MailChimp subscription, and a few other little bits and pieces. Nobody's making any money on this. This is just to maintain our community here. So we'd appreciate a donation if you'd like to give that. And with that, I will stop the YouTube stream, and we can say goodbye to YouTube.
Bye, YouTube. Bye.
I can get it to work. YouTube.